Joining me as we start this week. And I was thinking this morning about Advent, the idea we call it Advent, which means beginning. That's why I threw the word adventure. And then New Year's, working with Reverend Alan Callie, who's going to be doing our New Year's launch into the New Year service. And just thinking about that whole idea of this is kind of a season of starts. It really is. It's a season of welcoming God in a new way. And then we set sail in a new way in the new year. And it's not that that's always easy, right? There's a lot of challenges. There's been a lot of heartbreak in the past year. So people are carrying that forward. They're carrying their worries, their concerns, lots of shifts going on societally, and how do we hold all that moving forward? So it's like I think with God we can always be these reasonable optimists where it's like, oh yeah, things are going to be good, but boy, is it tough sledding getting between here and there, and it is. So today, what I wanted to talk about was what's a way to hold faith, as we move forward. And I would start out with two basic points. The first is that, as Anne Lamott famously says and gets repeated again and again, as it should, is faith is not the same as certainty. Certainty would hold that we can look at God arriving in our lives this Christmas. We can look at the year ahead, and we can know with certainty. And the reality is, we really can't, because certainty sort of makes it sound like we can predict, and we can't really predict. What we can do is we can prepare. We can prepare for a year that we know will be up and down. We can prepare in our spiritual lives that we know we're going to have good days and bads. We can prepare for all that, but we can't predict at all what's going to happen in the year ahead. So that's part number one. Faith is not certainty. So then, what is faith? Well, it's the idea that faith is this is from Miroslav Volf, which I love this idea. Faith is when we approach this new year, and I'm using my phrase, this new year. We approach this new year with two things: open hands and a sense of gratitude. I love that. I think that is absolutely spot on in terms of what faith is, because let's just look at that. It's open hands. Now, certainty would have that it's not open hands, that we're here typing out our own script and everything. That's not what's going to happen. And you just look at the past year, right? I guarantee all of us have a surprise that in a good way, that was just like, oh, absolutely didn't see that coming. That was so good. And the opposite's true too, where we're looking at a surprise that was really devastating to us. It was really hard and still might be hard to wrestle with. Probably is still hard to wrestle with. And for many of us, we may wrestle with that the rest of our earthly lives. But that idea of open hands just it's willing to open up to what life is. And it's not that God is going to, put these little bombs or little hand grenades in your hands and watch things blow up. That's not what God does. God walks with us through that. But it's not that God creates that, if that makes sense. But what God creates is our ability to hold it with open hands, to be able to go like, yep, this is my life today. And some days it's really blessed, and some days it's really broken. And we're just able to hold that. And then part two of it, friends, is this gratitude. So we have these open hands, and we're able to have a lot of gratitude around life. And again, it's important to note, like go to the extremes. It's easy to have gratitude when win the lottery, just pick a silly example, but also have gratitude around the other parts of life, like gratitude. I think about loss, right? Like, as many of you know, I lost my father. I know many of you watching this have lost loved ones. Some of you have losses that are much more tragic. I mean, that was 96. There's no tragedy in that. Sadness, but no tragedy. And I know we have members of the congregation where it's more along the lines of things that really are tragic and hard. And how can you hold, here's life. All of a sudden we have a loss, and we're holding it. It's really hard. God's walking with us as we do that. God's heart's always the first to break. I think of God walking with us with his arm around us as we move forward in our lives. And then gratitude, like how the heck does gratitude show up? Well, I think gratitude oftentimes, not always, because there certainly are situations where I don't think it could happen, is gratitude can show up in terms of this beautiful way of just, what's the right way to say it? Of just going like, well, I really knew love. I really knew love. I really knew preciousness. I really knew what love was. I really knew what connection was with this person, and we will see them again. And that sort of honoring of the memory as well as looking forward to the reunion. Those are two pretty significant things to think about. So that's the idea, friends. Like as we go into this year, go into it with the sense of faith, but not faith as in certainty, because that would say that we could predict, and really all we can do is prepare for the whatever the year brings. And then step two, go into a faith that faith is like this: is faith is this idea of faith is where we're able to come into the year with open hands and gratitude. Open hands, be able to hold the life that we will be experiencing the year ahead, knowing God's walking with us, Emmanuel, God with us. God's going to be walking with us, reminded constantly of the importance of love, the importance of wisdom, giving us some perspective on these things, helping us through these things. And then the other part of that is just this gratitude, because you know what? Life sure is not perfect, absolutely, but man, is it good. And I see that over and over and over again. So I hope that is helpful, my friends. And now what we're going to do is now we're going to shift gears. And we shift gears at New Church Live. We come to our little breath. So we're going to take a little breath, do a little meditation, do a little prayer, do a little blessing. And then we'll say hi to friends on Facebook. So please join me with a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little quick cheery hello to people who might have joined us on Facebook. Let's take a little quick look. All right, no comments on data page. So we'll flip over to the other page. And by the way, we got nothing to say, right? But wow, is it cold today? Holy cow, is out this morning at like bitterly cold. All right, one comment over there. Let's see who that is. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. All right, dear friends, God bless all of you, and we will see you again tomorrow here on 10 Minutes of Morning.